So welcome everybody to today's lesson. I'm teaching a series of 3 lessons that will help improve your posture. We're going to use the lessons are based on the Feldenkrais method. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, but I'm also a movement specialist for Core 360. Today's lesson will be ask you to lay on the floor and to lay on your side. I will ask you to have something available that you can put underneath your head, ideally something that is flat, like I have here some padding, but you can also use some folded towels, a folded blanket that works well. And yeah, that's all you need right now. But before you get down to the floor, I would like you to get up into standing. So please stand up. And notice when you, as I mentioned, the lesson that I will teach today will also have an effect on our posture. So we take a moment at the beginning of a lesson to sense ourselves so we can better compare, do all these movements that we're going to do make any difference in the way how we stand on our posture? Notice when you stand like that, don't take a posture where you think like someone told you, oh, you should throw your shoulders back or you should pull your belly in or any of that, but do it just like how it comes natural for you. And have your feet about hip width apart. And just sense for a moment when you are standing, how balanced you feel. You don't have to change anything. Just notice if you have more weight over one leg or the other. And notice your overall posture. How comfortable is it to stand like this? Could you stand like this for 10, 15 minutes, or would you feel you have to make a change because this part of yourself maybe would not feel so well, or you would feel like there's a strain somewhere? Just become aware of it without making any changes. Now we're going to do a little test movement. At the beginning of this lesson, we're going to come to it at the end of it. And I would like you to remain standing on your place, but pretend there's someone behind you and you want to turn around to look towards that person. And very slowly begin to turn to one side and then turn back, with the intention as if you wanted to look behind yourself. Just a few times and notice to which side you begin to turn. Do you turn to the right or do you turn to the left? And go only as far as easy. And the next time when you turn to the side that's easy, look straight forwards, turn as far as easy, look forwards, and or look like, you know, where your eyes are meeting the wall, and mark yourself a spot on the wall so you have like a benchmark for later. And then turn yourself to the other side as far as it's easy. It may be very different in your ability to turn to this side. Often we have a side where it's easy to turn to. So don't push it, just become aware. What do you do when you turn to the second side? And how far do you turn with absolutely ease? And when you are turned to the left side, as far as it's very easy without pushing or going into a stretch, just mark yourself a spot on the wall that you can better know how far do you turn here at the beginning of the lesson. Good. Now, please now lay down on the floor. Get yourself down to the floor. Lay down on your back. And have the cushion or that the things that you can put underneath your head somewhere next to you that you can get hold of it, that you don't have to get up later. Just have it somewhere. Good. And then lay on your back without that support underneath your head, unless you feel you really want something behind your head because it feels uncomfortable. And if you can lay down with your legs long, that would be, if that's possible, do so. If you feel it's not easy for you to keep your legs long, then please bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And we're going to take a moment to sense ourselves and how we are relating to the floor. How do we feel our backside begins to settle on the floor. Notice the way how your shoulders are making contact with the floor. The shoulder blades, can you sense them? Can you sense both sides? Do you feel one side feeling heavier or pressing more into the floor, or a different part of the shoulder making contact with the floor than the other? And make this observation without making any change right away. It's more about becoming aware than making immediately a change. If you change it right away, you don't know really like what is it that you changed and how you changed it. And you don't know what the effects will be of the lesson on yourself. Notice how much of your chest do you feel is in contact with the floor? Your ribs on the right and on the left side, do you feel the contact there? And then most of us will feel a contact around our pelvis. If we can feel our buttocks, this is the heaviest part of our body, like our pelvis, the big muscles of our trunk and the big muscles of our legs are all attached to the pelvis. So get a sense, how is the weightness like in your pelvis? Do you feel each buttock having about the equal amount of weight, or do you feel your pelvis slightly tilted to one side or the other, or heavy on one side? How is it with your legs? How do they rest on the floor? How much of the legs rest on the floor? You may experience that maybe one leg feels that the toes are more pointing outwardly, and the toes of the other foot may turn a little bit more inwardly. Without making any changes, just notice that. And then notice the positioning of your head, how your head rests on the floor. And do you have the sense that the head feels right in the center of yourself, or slightly maybe rolled or slightly bent more to one side? And begin with a small movement without lifting your head, to roll your head very lightly on the floor, a bit to one side, and then slowly bring it back and see if you can roll it a small amount to the other side. Don't go to the max. Do a very small movement where you feel the movement is very smooth. How big is that range where you feel you're not pushing, you are not using force? It might be very, very small. And it's okay if it's very small. So don't go far, see what's very easy. And compare your sides. To which side do you feel you have an easiest way turning the head, rolling the head there? Good. Now, please roll yourself over onto your left side and support your head with this cushion or with that support. Or if you don't have a support and you're comfortable extending your left arm, you can place your head on your extended left arm. That works too. And find a height that your head feels more or less in a line with the spine. So it's not feeling like that it's really bent upwards too much or hanging uncomfortably downwards. Find a height. So when you have like a folded towel, you can easily adjust the height throughout the lesson and place it so that to the back of your head, you have a little bit of space, so that the towel reaches a little bit to the back of your head. Good. Now, have your legs bent and place them on top of each other. Most of you have done that anyway, because for most of us, it's a very comfortable position to be. And it's not important if you can see me. I'm more important that you can just follow my directions. So you lay on your side. Good. Now, take your right hand and place your right palm on your forehead in a way that the fingertips are pointing towards the floor, your elbow is bent, and your right elbow is pointing towards the ceiling. So you place your right hand the right palm on your forehead, as if you're measuring the temperature of a child. Like, you want to feel how hot is the forehead. Yeah, good. Now you keep your hand attached to the forehead, and you could think that the head and the arm are like one unit. And you begin to slowly to roll your head to the right so that your face begins to turn slightly more in the direction of the ceiling, and your hand takes the head with it like to the right. So a little bit to the right, or you could think almost like backwards, that your head rolls a bit only as far as very easy, and then you come back. It's a very small amount. And roll only so far that you can keep your knees together so that the right knee doesn't lift away from the left knee. Just what's very easy. And then you roll back. And sense when you roll your head like this is like if your hand and arm rolls the head to the right and then you roll back. Notice if you can sense something happening in your chest, in your back, maybe to your spine, between your shoulder blades. Do you notice the movement there? And go slowly. When you go slowly, you have a chance to sense more. You give your nervous system more time to sense differences. When you go very quickly, you're more likely to move within a range or within a pattern that you're used to. Go very slowly. Good. Now, leave that. Take your right hand down. Pause a moment, staying on your side. And feel also your contact on your left side. How much do you sense your ribs on the left side of your pelvis? If you feel you need to put a little towel underneath the left side of your pelvis because like it feels too bony or something feels too pressing, feel free to do that. Yeah. Now, place again your right hand on your forehead as you did before and close your eyes. Close your eyes and bring attention to your right eye. Think of your right eye and think that you would look with your right eye into the distance, and you will begin to move your right eye to the right in a wide arc, and then you move the right eye back. Your left eye will move along with that, but your attention is with the right eye. You think you look into the distance. You could think being at the beach and you're looking at a maybe a sailboat that passes by going over to the right in the distance, and then it moves back slowly, gently with your right eye. See if you can bring attention to the right eye, and can you sense the movement of the eyeball moving in the eye socket there? We are not used to any of that, so take your time. Make sure you keep breathing. Good. Now, bring attention to your left eye and look with your left eye into the distance over to the left, and then slowly back from where you started from. And notice how easy is that to do with the left eye. Is that small and smooth movement, or do you feel your eye begins to jump from place to place? If you feel it's too heavy to keep the right hand on the forehead, you can take the right hand down, but keep your eyes closed and continue to do the movement with the eye, with your left eye to the left. Good. Now, place your right hand again onto your forehead if you have taken your hand down. And now, with the help of your right hand, roll your head again to the right as you did before, and see how far can your head roll now. Is it any different? The range, the ease, how far can you roll with your head backwards? If you feel you have too much cushion underneath your head, you can take out a layer. Good. And then leave that and take your right hand down, pause a moment on your side. And then You have your legs together, the knees on top of each other, and begin now to lift your right knee away from the left knee. And you do it so that your right foot or the right foot stays in contact with the left foot. So it's only lifting the right knee away from the other knee. The left knee remains on the floor, the right knee lifts. And notice, is this easy to lift that right knee? Is it heavy? Lift it only as far as easy. And notice what it is that you do when you lift your right knee. Lifting it and bringing it back. Pausing a moment before you start a new movement. Good. Now, many of you, I can see, lift the knee and you move somewhere from your hip joint. Now, begin to roll your pelvis backwards. So you roll your pelvis, that the right side of your pelvis rolls backwards, and then lift your knee. And notice if that makes a difference in the ease of how you can lift your knee if you let your pelvis become part of the action. Actually, place your right hand in front of you in kind of like a push-up position so that you limit a little bit the movement of your chest and your trunk, and you can become clearer about the movement of what does it take to lift the right knee. You can lift the right knee just like by its own weight and from the hip joint, or what would happen if you let your pelvis, if you think the right side of your pelvis goes backwards and you roll a little bit, as if you would roll with your pelvis towards your back and then lift the right knee. And notice if that makes it easier to lift the right leg, that the leg feels maybe lighter in its weight. And your right foot kind of like pivots on that left ankle, or so the inside of the right foot has some contact with your left leg, with your left foot there. And go slowly, go slowly. Good. Now, place your right hand again on your forehead. And now begin to lift your right knee. Let your pelvis roll to the right and also roll your head to the right so that you are lifting your head, not lifting your head, you're lifting your knee, you roll your head. And notice how much more you can roll your head when you let your pelvis become part of the movement. Many of you, I can see the face is more turned towards the ceiling when you let the pelvis become part of the action, right? See, if you keep your knees together and don't move your pelvis, roll your head again to the right. You may roll still a little bit further, but maybe not as far. Yeah? Can you sense that the turning has something to do with how many parts of you are engaged in that turning? So when you roll your head and your chest begins to move, and you let your pelvis also roll, and your right knee lifts, how the whole rolling is a little bit easier. Good. Now leave all that and roll back onto your back. Take the cushions out, put them to the side, and pause on your back. And when you are resting on your back, notice the feeling in your sides. Do they feel any different? How do you sense your whole right side, your whole left side? Some of you will experience differences in the weight, and maybe certain parts have a different sense of contact with the floor, or you have a different sense of length in one side or the other. And gently begin to roll your head and notice, very light, very small, notice how your head moves and rolls. And become aware when you roll your head, with your eyes closed, with your eyes open, however you like to, notice if you can feel your eyes moving to one side or another. What would happen if you let the eyes initiate the movement of the head? So in other words, when you want to roll your head to the right, start with beginning with to move your eyes to the right and then let the head follow. And when you come back to the center, begin to look to the left and continue to look to the left. See how your head can continue to then also begins to roll to the left and kind of catches up with the eyes going to the left as far as easy. And when you are to the left, to roll to the right, let your eyes lead the movement again. Let the head follow and sense the power that the eyes have over the movement of what happens in your neck, how easily it can move. If that quality of that way how the head rolls, if that is different. Good. Now roll yourself over onto your right side. And on your right side, bend again your legs, place them on top of each other, support your head. And then make sure that you have to the back of your head enough space that you could roll the head to the left, that it wouldn't drop off that pillow there, right? And then you place your left hand on your forehead so that the fingertips of your left hand are pointing towards the floor. Your left elbow is bent and your left elbow points towards the ceiling, right? And you keep your hand attached to the head, to the forehead, and you begin to roll your head to the left. You could use your hand, like notice how the elbow moves backwards through space. You can begin to look at the elbow, see if that helps the movement. And notice the turning. What happens in your back, in your chest? Do you feel emotion in your spine, between your shoulder blades, an area that for many of us, we are not aware of or it's hard to reach? Good. Now leave that. You can pause a moment, stay on your right side. And then you can either, if it was easy for you to place your left hand on your forehead, you can do that. If you feel it's a strain, then keep the hand down and bring attention to your eyes and start to bring attention to your right eye. And think again, you look into the distance with your right eye, and then you smoothly move your right eye to the right, and then coming back very slowly. See if you can slow down the movement so much that it becomes smooth. To the right and back, like in a wide arc, looking into the distance in your imagination. With your eyes closed, if you feel more comfortable keeping your eyes open, you can keep your eyes open. And pretty much for all of us, our left eye will move along with the movement, but your attention is with the right eye. Now, pay attention to your left eye and think you look with your left eye into the distance and move it to the left in a wide arc, and then bring it back from where you started from. Sense the movement. You don't need to do any movement with your arm or hand, just with your eyes. It's small. But notice when you move your eyes, do you have a slight sensation in your neck, in the back of your neck, where your neck meets your head? Yeah? The movement of the eyes have a huge impact on our overall movement and are connected to the muscles of our neck. Now bring attention again to your right eye and think you could look with your right eye to the right in an arc, and you would end up looking into your right ear. So it's somewhat like a smaller arc looking over to the right ending up into your right ear. Make sure you continue to breathe and that you don't tighten anywhere else. Like notice that if your mouth is relaxed, yeah, if you crunch your teeth together, it will not be easy. So keep that relaxed, keep your tongue relaxed. And then place again your left hand on your forehead, your left palm, and roll your head again to the left and see how is it now. After you've explored these movements with the eyes, has the quality of how your head can roll to the left and back, has that changed or not? Good. And then leave that, pause a moment on your side. And then place your left hand in front of you in a push-up position so that your left elbow is lifted towards the ceiling, where you can place it comfortably, somewhere in front of your chest, of the height of your sternum or height of your shoulder. Find a place for your left hand. And now lift your left knee away from the right knee without lifting the whole leg. It's only lifting the knee. The inside of the left knee moves away from the right knee. And sense here, like the weight of the leg. If we only use the muscles of our leg to lift the knee, it is a lot of work. Now, find a way to engage your pelvis, that you have that sense you roll with the left side of your pelvis backwards, and you roll a little bit backwards, and then you lift your left knee. Your left foot can remain in contact with the right foot there, like so you don't lift the whole leg. It's just lifting the inside of the knee, and then you bring it back. When you bring it back, notice also the motion of the pelvis, how the pelvis rolls back. So you roll, it's small, the movement, but notice how when you move your pelvis, that something happens in your back and you roll a little bit over your whole right side. You feel how your whole, the side you're resting on, how you roll over that side in order to bring your pelvis a little bit back, and that lifts your knee. Now, place your left hand on your forehead as you did before, so that your left elbow is pointing more or less towards the ceiling. Now you combine these two movements, the rolling of the head backwards with the rolling of the pelvis backwards and the lifting of the left knee, and see how far can your whole left side roll backwards. And then you come back again and feel like how you roll over your right side. You feel the contact of the floor on the right side, but it's your left side that is kind of like the active side there. That's right. And then if you feel like it, you can vary. You can start with your pelvis and your knee, and then let your head and arm follow. Or you can be playful and start like with the head, and then sensing when does the pelvis can follow in the knee. So we don't have to do it exactly like opening a door. It can be like, you know, that one part moves first and then the other one follows. And when you return, one part comes back first and is already in its starting place, while the other one is still catching up. Make it smooth, light, easy. That's nice. Notice, do your eyes move? What happens if you would start looking to the left as you start rolling to the left? Does that make a difference? If you have the intention to look towards your elbow that goes towards the left, does that make a difference in how far the head can roll? And how much your chest opens? Good, nice. And then leave that and roll back onto your back and rest on your back. And when you are resting on your back, notice what's your sense of yourself now on the floor. How much of you is resting on the floor? The sides, they may feel more equal, like than before when you were doing the movements on one side, haven't done it on the other side yet. And is it as comfortable as it was before? Is it more comfortable than at the beginning? How much do you feel your shoulders making contact with the floor? Your chest and ribs? Your pelvis, the weightedness in your pelvis, like the buttocks on the right and on the left side. Is that different feeling? And your legs? And how have these movements affected how you breathe, like the coming and going of the air without doing anything? Notice how your belly and your chest moves as you breathe in and out. And then very slowly begin to roll your head and sense here, how easy is it to roll the head now? Do you feel the movement of the rolling from the head? Do you feel it further inside of you? Like, is there an echo somewhere? You feel that the rolling of the head doesn't stop at the base of the neck. It might feel that it goes a little bit further inside of you. See if you can see a slight improvement, yeah? Which would be quite interesting after such a short time, that you already feel an improvement and you can sense that without having pushed yourself to the limit or doing strengthening exercises, but working more on your ability to coordinate your movement and finding how the different parts of yourself relate to each other by bringing a lot of attention to it. Now, slowly in your own time, roll to one side, get yourself up to sit, take your time, don't rush it after this, and get yourself up into standing. Take your time. And notice how you roll over to the side. How easy is it to roll over to the side now? And then take a moment to, when you aren't standing, just leave your mat for a moment. Like, you can roll it up afterwards. Or if you had something on the floor, just stand and just sense now, how do you stand after this experience? Like, how balanced do you feel over your legs? What's your posture like? How upright do you feel? Do you have a different sense of your personal length? Like, do you feel shorter or longer? A different feeling of how connected you feel your feet to the ground. And then ideally stand in the same spot you were standing before at the beginning when I ask you like to turn around, so that you have a better sense of comparison, and begin slowly for yourself to turn to one side, keeping the feet on the floor, to one side. See how far can you turn easily, and then slowly come back and turn to the other side, and notice if it's any different. Remember, you had this little benchmark on the wall. Do you look as far as before? Do you look further? Not as far? Different on one side or the other? And notice how much of you is engaged in that movement. When you want to look over to one side, do your shoulders move? Is your pelvis moving? Can your pelvis move? Yeah? Allow your pelvis to move and to turn, and sense what a difference that makes if the pelvis becomes engaged. Often we are hearing, well, turn over one side, and we do a lot of movement in the neck, but not necessarily a lot of movement from our center of ourselves, from the pelvis. See when you turn your pelvis, how it carries your back and your shoulders and your head. Now, see, if you have like one of our Core 360 chairs, get it ready and sit on it. If you have a regular chair, it works too. Like sit on a regular chair, then more on the front of the chair, and ideally not a chair that is very soft and cushiony, one that you can move on. And take a moment to sense yourself sitting on the chair. How has these lessons also affected how you sit on the chair now? How upright do you feel? Now, if you take some of what you learned from laying on the floor and we take that with us into sitting, turn yourself to the right and see how you turn to the right. And here with the chair allows easy movement, like in turning, right? Like because the chair itself is, the platform you're sitting on is mobile and it allows you to turn, and notice how far you can turn. Notice which knee comes more forward, which leg goes a little bit backwards or moves backwards. That's right. And then slowly turn also to the other side. Sense how your shoulders move, how your head moves. What are your eyes doing? Are you looking clearly over that shoulder? Going from side to side, and feel the ease that the Core 360 allows you to move with ease from side to side. Yeah? Good. Now, you can even use this turning to get up from the chair. You can, if you could place your left foot a little bit behind and the right foot a little bit in front, just a little bit, maybe half a foot. And now have the intention to get up, to turn to the left and to get up into standing. Like so you turn to the left and then in that turning you get up into standing and see how does it feel. And when you get back down, you feel like how your pelvis comes back, how you sit. Yeah, so you have to have one foot a little bit in front of the other foot. That makes it easier. Yeah, and you feel then how you can turn. In the turning, you have that sense like you're spiraling up and you are getting up in the turn. And then you find yourself up into standing. And it's a different way how to get up into standing, not in the frontal, in the sagittal plane, like going forwards and back, but in that turning. When you go to the right, if you want to turn to the right and get up, you have your right foot a little bit closer to the legs of the chair, and then the left foot a little bit more in the front. And then you find like, you know, how you can use the chair to turn yourself to the right and getting up to the right. How easy is it to get up like that? And then as you come back down, you feel like how the pelvis spirals back onto the chair and you find yourself sitting. So another way how to get up and down from the chair. You can also try these techniques or these ways using a regular chair. If you have trouble getting out of a regular chair, you can use that idea of turning and spiraling up instead of like kind of like pulling yourself forwards and back. See if that's a little bit easier. It might be different. It might be unusual like to do it like that, but maybe it is a different way and a way that you would like to explore. Well, then thank you very much. I hope you found this helpful, like these little exercises, explorations that we do here. And just to let you know, I also offer personal one-on-one consultations. People can sign up for that. It's free, 30 minutes consultation with me. How to use your chair, how to design your office space or your space at home where you use the chair. And you can go to our website and can sign up for that. I offer them once a week, these sessions. So now I'm curious to hear how, if you felt a difference, if this was helpful. other observations that you had or questions? You know how to use Zoom, like, you know, how to unmute yourself. Turner is also here. You can see Turner wave a little bit. So Turner is the inventor of the chair. He's the CEO of our company. And he's also happy to answer questions around the use of the chair or other things that you have.
Well, it's Chris here. I did notice a big difference. Mobility increased significantly with each successive movement, and I'm fascinated by what the eyes do.
Mm-hmm.
They pull you around, so it's it's just fascinating. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And what is interesting, if someone shares some of their experience, I could see some other people nod too. Like, you know, often like what one person experienced is also the experience of other people. Yeah. So we are not totally unique in our in the way, like, you know, and in the use of the eyes. For many people, when I teach lessons in the Feldenkrais method, we have whole lessons around the use of the eyes and how they impact our overall movement. And that is an important aspect when you think about, for instance, many of us have to use our screen all day because of our workplace. And if you look at a screen a whole day, like, or 6 to 8, 12 hours sometimes, or at a little iPhone or whatever, yeah, you basically use your eyes only like in a certain way. The muscles around your eyes that control the focal length or the are really like can be really strained. And it is very important that we are not kind of locking ourselves into one distance of where our screen is, that we have like there are different recommendations, for instance, like that you really like every 20 minutes for 20 seconds look into the distance, yeah, and then you can come back so that you play with variations. But there are also many other ways how to explore the movement of the eyes. If you are curious about all these movements, you find them very helpful, well, maybe you want to check out the Feldenkrais method and maybe come to one of my classes. You may find it very fascinating how it can help you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's puzzling to everybody, I think, that you can be led around by your eyes, because the eyeballs are pretty small and the muscles that guide the eyeballs are tiny. But, you know, somehow it has this huge effect on the way your whole body behaves. And I'm not really sure I understand how that happens, Uwe.
Well, you know, one way to think about it is that we have usually like an intention of when we move, like we need to get prepared for that activity, and it goes very, very quickly what happens in our brain. And kind of like when we look at something, we have the intention to, for instance, like getting up. If we let our eyes look in a way like for that action, they already give a lot of information to the brain how to prepare ourselves for the movement, how to get ready. Yeah. So that's why it is often so puzzling when people explore how do the eyes have an impact on the movement, and very, very few methods really explore the movement of the eyes and how you can use them. They can be very useful for yourself.
Yeah,
so,
and we've really underestimated just how important this is. You know, it's for a long time, Western medicine was puzzled by why so many people need to wear glasses. When, I mean, this is a catastrophe. If you're in the wild, you won't be able to see predators or find, you know, dinner. So how does it happen that something as perfect as the rest of us winds up with terrible vision? And the idea, the current contemporary idea, is that by leaving kids indoors where their eyes never look all the way out to the horizon, the development of the eyeball is changed. And so we wind up with over half of our kids needing glasses. So the business of, giving the eyes exercise has important implications for how kids develop. It's too late for me, but maybe I can get a little better.
Well, then, oh, sorry. Let me just say one thing. The nice thing about, like, often we think like, oh, well, I'm too old for these things. I cannot learn a new trick or stuff like that. Well, that's not true. We can, at any age, we can improve. We may not be able to come back like to our 22-year-old self, but we can improve our placement, that we can really feel that the things that we want to do, we can do them with more ease and less discomfort or pain. Yeah.
There's a ship captain in Maine. I live in Maine, and he runs cruises in his big 3-masted sailboat, and he's in his middle 60s, and he has just still 20/20 vision, and he claims it's because he's constantly looking up at the sails and moving his eyes and judging. He's sure of it.
At least it's a very, very nice story. Yeah. we don't know, because we can't really compare how it would be. We would need we need a twin of him, sitting in an office and doing just looking at a screen, so we could really tell the difference. But it makes sense in a way, like from a more evolutionary biological point of view, it makes sense to use our eyes and to look into the distance. Yeah. There are also some comments in the chat. Let me see. So people commenting that it's much easier to get up from the chair, that they found it helpful to incorporate the eyes, the upper and the lower body with the rotation. And I think that is it's a very good comment. We often think so much in certain parts of ourselves. Like we think like, oh, if just the shoulders would be different, then everything would be different. Or we have an injury somewhere, and then our whole attention goes to the area that is hurtful, painful, or injured. And we are not looking enough like at how does the whole body relate to these areas that are maybe uncomfortable? How could we find movement around the discomfort? And this is an area where the Feldenkrais method can be very helpful to explore that. And the chair is very helpful in regards to our overall movement, like to become aware how important the movement from the pelvis is. I'm sure you felt also the difference, like in the exercises when you were laying on the side and you had to lift the leg just like by the weight of the leg, and then using the pelvis, what a difference that made. So when we begin to move from the pelvis, it's really like the place where the biggest muscles are attached to, and then the rest of the body can easily follow.
I like to add that it's my favorite chair. I not only use it at my desk, I also use it to practice piano. I use it at the dining table because the height is adjustable. So for most dining tables and chairs, table height is fixed, chair height is fixed. This allows me to adjust the height to my comfort level. And the chair is so portable, I can move it around from one room to the other.
Yeah, that's a big problem with the design, is we made it so light, people can move it from place to place, so they only need one chair. We would have sold a lot more if we made it bigger and heavier.
One day I would like to get more of these for my dining table, so my guests can also adjust the height.
Yeah, for some people, you may discover, like when you let other people try out the Core 360, you often get 2 or 3 different reactions. There's some people who sit on it and fell in love with it right away and say like, oh, I love it. I love the movability. Some people really have that kind of fear and then get like, oh, I don't like that. It's like too much movement. It's a little bit concerning, and I mean, like, we are not saying that this chair is like for everybody, but what is interesting is if you stability, the sense of stability and mobility are kind of like from the same, like balance has a lot to do with stability and instability, and playing around with a certain degree of instability, like, with the chair, improves actually your balance. So people who may feel a little bit like startled and saying, oh, this, I don't know, like, I'm afraid I'm falling off. We haven't heard of anybody falling off from the chair, by the way. Yeah. So what is interesting that your whole system immediately has to adjust because you are challenged to some degree sitting on the chair. Yeah. You cannot fall asleep really. Yeah, like you would in another chair. You cannot slump so much back because you would, your system immediately say, oh, no, this doesn't feel right. So you have to come again, like, more in an upright posture, that you are really like having a better alignment of where's your pelvis relative to your spine, relative to your head. And for many people, it has really helped them like to improve not only their posture, but we get a lot of letters and emails of people giving anecdotal reference like to how it has helped with their back pain and yeah, and overall comfort in sitting.
We will get an email from QOR 360 about the recordings.
Yes, we are. You are. I will send this information. I'll send the recording of today to our tech people, and they make sure that all 3 recordings will go out. On the first recording, we had some technical issues, so some of you have maybe signed up, but we had to start it late.
So I will look for an email from Core 360.
Yes,
Okay.
You will get one, and there should be all 3 lessons, all 3 recordings should be included, or links to their, I don't know exactly how they will group it, but yes. Good.
And how would we sign up for the 30-minute talk with you?
It's not 3 minutes, it's 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes. Some people, it's the way how you do that is you go to the Core 360 side and look for, I would have to look let me just find out give me 1 second that I can find it, like the link for it. Here. So let me put it in the chat. 1 second. So you can also Google Core 360 and then consultations. That will also bring you to that link.
Okay,
yeah?
Thank you.
It's a free service that we're offering. And yeah, because sometimes it's someone also mentioned that in the chat, like, finding the position of how to sit on the chair is definitely a question that comes up quite often when I work with people, and then it can make a big difference in their comfort, like, because they may not be so aware of where they sit on the chair, and that it can make it easy for themselves. In a private lesson, it's much easier for me to address the personal questions, and ideally you have a camera and I can see you and I can direct you a bit and answer your questions. There's another question. If we do deliver to Europe chairs, We do. Unfortunately, the shipping costs increase tremendously, and depending on the country where you're from, there might be some taxes involved. So contact us. We have done it many, many times, but you have to ask someone like from our company, like how much more the cost would be for that. So, no more questions or comments, and
Or too many to ask.
too many to ask. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, well, maybe if you sign up for a private, then you can throw them all at me.
I will do that.
Good. Well, I thank you very much for coming, and also particular people who have had the camera on. It helps me obviously to see how people move. Otherwise, it would be difficult. I appreciate that. And I hope you get really a lot of use out of the chair. And if you have any questions, you can also email us or call us. There's a person who picks up the phone. There's no machine. We're still small enough.
And we're always happy to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So thank you all for coming. And
Thank you, Uwe.
again, like we'll send out the recordings and you can then practice as often as you want at home by yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.